Hello, friends, and welcome to Rise Up in Real Estate, where we are on a quest. We are looking for the extra in the ordinary. And I'm Tad Fulford, and I will be your host on this journey where we will take an honest look at what makes ordinary people extraordinary. Exactly how can we be extra in our personal and our professional lives? In this season of the Rise Up in Real Estate adventure, there will be a monthly rhythm, meaning each month we will have 4 unique episodes. In one episode, we'll tackle a pressing current real estate industry thought. In another, we will chat with a local difference maker in the real estate space. For our 3rd episode, we will host a respected national thought leader. And finally, we will have a 4th bonus and surprise episode. And in each episode, we will be digging into not only what those people think, but who those people are. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll laugh some, you'll be challenged some, you will get inspired some, and if we are lucky, maybe even figure out a way or two you can rise up in your own life and be the best human that you can be. So the challenge is, let's all rise up. Hello, Rise Up Nation. We're back for another exciting episode of Rise Up in Real Estate. And today you're in for a treat. I have a new friend. I guess I've known my friend Vince for a year or 2 or 5. I don't know. It's been a year or 2 that we've been knowing each other. And I think you're going to appreciate him in this next 30 minutes as much as I do. He's got a really cool story, a lot of great qualities about him. Right now, those of you that are listening to the podcast, I'll give you a little bit of information because we're in the coastal region of South Carolina. Vince, we've got listeners from all over the place, so I'm trying to give them a little bit of a reference point. We have a real estate brokerage, and Vince now is working with us at this brokerage. So, but we'll probably get to real estate at some point. This podcast is supposed to be about real estate, but sometimes it's just about humans. So that's how we roll. But I want to introduce you to my good friend, Vince Ramsey. Vince, thanks for being on the show today.
Hello, Rise Up Nation. I am happy to be here and honored to be invited.
Yeah, you're not just anybody gets invited on the Rise Up in Real Estate.
That's podcast, what I'm saying. Yeah, right? This is great.
It's just nice to have. I really do mean this. Like we've known each other. When did we meet? Do you remember?
It's been close to a year. Okay. We spoke prior to me getting out of the military to come back here, which is my home. Yeah. And so we've known each other that long. I mean, seeing each other regularly for about 8 months now.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't believe it's been a year. You know, those of you that know our story here at our brokerage, we don't hire lightly. Like we take serious who we add to our team. It's a very well thought out, very mission led organization. I think which matched really good with who you were. But when I hired you, it was like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was a little bit like, how's this going to go? And, we won't tell the whole long story, but Vince is actually doing the job that I did for a while. And you're killing it. Like you've exceeded every expectation so far. And I've really been proud of what you've done and it's been fun. But I want you to start by tell our listeners like where you came from and just paint this picture for us about like your story up until real estate. And then we'll get into real estate.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the kind words there. Yeah, so I am a North Myrtle Beach / Conway native, right? So East Coast of South Carolina, and grew up, and it was, it was anything but real stable. So I kind of grew up in a real fluid environment. My mom lived in Conway, my dad lived in North Myrtle Beach. So I was back and forth a lot, and so I kind of did that thing through middle school, high school. I was always just an extroverted, kind of positive, just all over the place guy. Can't sit still, can't focus, still can't at times. And so I kind of carried that into high school and college. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Absolutely no plan. And my 2 best buds, Micah and Greg, and I'll make them listen to this as well. Micah and Greg are like, we're going to this college in Florida. It's called Embry Riddle. It's an aeronautical school. I have zero interest in airplanes, don't know what to do, but I had no plan, so I'm going with them. So that's what I do. I go with my best buds to college because why not? And start to fly airplanes. and realized quickly that that's wildly expensive and not something that I felt comfortable doing at all. But what ended up happening during that time at that university is I found the ROTC program, Air Force ROTC program. And I found my niche in just kind of team building and leadership, if you want to say that, eventually. And I loved, for the first time in my life, there was some kind of organization and there was some stability, I guess you could say. I mean, growing up was great. We had good times, had bad times like everybody else. But I had this really disciplined environment every morning before school in college that I never had before. I never had that kind of development.
Right.
And turns out I ended up being pretty good at it. And I did that through all 4 years of college. Because I'm such an active guy and my brain's kind of going. I helped found a fraternity with those same guys while we were there. I got elected to the SGA, Student Government Association. I was wearing 4 or 5 different hats and just kind of the guy, and I was loving life and I was so busy, and I'm doing all this and life is great. I graduate, I commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force, and I get an email that says, "You're going to North Dakota." Nice. So I was a security forces officer, went to North Dakota. At this time, in between graduating college and leaving to go to North Dakota, I proposed and married Jennah, my wife. So
we went straight. Yeah,
what's that?
You outkicked your coverage on that one. We've talked about
I could talk this whole time about how much I outkicked my coverage and how wildly incredible Jennah is. She's the mother of our 2 children, Tripp and Joannah. Tripp is Vince the third.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of us running around out there, which scares folks that know the first 2. But there's a 3rd one now.
One more coming.
Yeah, right. So anyway, her and I moved to North Dakota. Us being the people we are, she's incredibly driven. She's in a master's program. She becomes a nurse practitioner, gets her board, her license and all. She's nursing while we're there. We're full-time school. I'm days, she's nights. We're high-fiving. I decide to get my master's degree while I'm there because we're bored. So we do all that. Eventually, we get called to Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., I can say this was 2017, changed the trajectory of my life completely.
Okay.
The experience I had there, and this is all because of the actual job that I was asked to do, which was direct all the operations for the Air Force funerals in Arlington National Cemetery.
Wow.
So we're there. It's 2017. We've got our son. Eventually Joannah comes later on, but we're there. And I'm working in Arlington National Cemetery, and I'm doing funeral interments and ceremonies and things like that for our fallen heroes.
Wow. So you didn't know, is that like when you're in the Air Force, did you get stationed there? Did they say, "Hey, you're going to go do this"? It wasn't
so it's in that case, it's actually a volunteer position, and you get a paragraph on like what the job entails. So that job specifically has height and weight requirements. And at the time I was leaner than I am now, but I was tall enough, and I'm stuck in North Dakota, and it looked like a way out. I had no idea. So just like the whole following your buddies to college, like I'm just kind of a good guesser. I guessed, and I was like, let's do it. Had no idea what I was in for, and that it would change my life forever.
Yeah. And when you say change your life forever, tell me a little bit more about that. What are you referring to?
Yeah. So perspective, right? Gratitude. Every day is a gift. I never understood that. I had a poor attitude for a lot of my life. I was negative for a while. I was kind of direct, and and maybe that comes a little bit from how I grew up and things, but I never appreciated like what was in front of me and like the breath in our lungs, you could say, even.
Right.
So after seeing what I saw hundreds and hundreds of times, which is just basically, not to be dismal, but basically just death, right?
Yeah.
You're in the cemetery and you're doing that day after day. You drive home and you think differently. Your thoughts are, oh man, I can't wait to get home and hug that person or see that person, because I was just, and we're doing 4 to 6 of these things a day. and I did that for 3.5 years. So it just changed perspective on everything. And those that know me now, I'm outrageously positive, and I talk about gratefulness a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, that changed me. It just sunk with how we need to think.
Yeah, let me ask you a couple questions about that, if you don't mind. I don't know that I knew you went to DC, but I don't know that I knew that's what you were doing there. Or I didn't remember that. So these are funerals of soldiers that I'm sure they were either old and they died after service, or they were killed at active duty, or whatever, right? So, were all the things that you did the same? Were the services all the same, or was it like normal funerals where sometimes there's a lot of family, sometimes there's no family, sometimes there's real tragedy, sometimes it's happy? Tell me what it was like.
Yeah. We did all of it. So I have gone to Dover Air Force Base and watched the C-130 land and helped carry the folks who were breathing 12 hours ago off the plane, and then buried them the next day. I have also buried the guy who's been retired for 45 years, and it was just, he was old, and there's a wait list in the cemetery as well. But yeah, so as far as who comes to the funerals, the only requirement is that we give the honors that they earned. And then there's one lady who's always there, and she's called an Arlington lady. This lady is there, and her sole purpose is to be there to receive the flag for me as the officer in charge if no one shows up. So on multiple occasions, we did interments with 0 family present. And you kind of start to think, what was that individual's story? What happened here? And sometimes we would have 1,000 cars. And it was a whole production. So we never knew what we were walking into. All we knew is that it was going to be perfect every time.
Yeah. And so you oversaw my grandfather had a full military funeral, and he was in the Army, but they did the gun salute. Everything was very tight, and it's probably even tighter if you're at Arlington. Like, did they do the gun salute and taps and fold the flag over the body and presented it to the closest of kin, the wife, whatever, husband?
Yep. Every day. It was, and it's that us in Arlington, we, in the Air Force, at least, it's our job to train the other bases. Mm-hmm. And so we fly them to DC and we train them on what it should look like, because we can't be everywhere. But yeah, so the people you're seeing in DC and Arlington are the premier performers, you could say, of taps, the full case on with the horse-drawn buggies, folding the flag, and all that good stuff. Yeah.
And this is interesting. I didn't know this is what I want to talk about, but I'm glad you brought this up. Did everyone that did your role, I know no one else was the director, but the people that did it every day, did everyone end up with an attitude of gratitude after? Or
it's funny.
Make you go the other way?
Yeah, it can make you go the other way for sure. I have a buddy who's a little cold. I have a buddy who it affected tremendously his mental health. And I have another guy who says, hey, man, it's just a job. And I tried that, right? But you are who you are and you feel how you feel. So it affected everyone differently. So yeah, it was a very unique experience for sure.
I'm just thinking about what it would be like. Nobody loves funerals except for the funeral home, I guess, but no one loves those normally. It is in some cases, like I want my funeral to be a celebration of life, right? But when you're talking the reverence of a soldier, you're talking of their sacrifice for the country, for people they don't know, all the things that you lived because you were in the service, and thank you for that. You think about going to a funeral like that every day, it can be emotionally draining, I bet. I could see myself crying a lot. Just because you care, especially, gosh, if no one's there. I mean, imagine the feelings that you have when that kind of thing happens.
So when you're a captain, you go to what's called squadron officer school, and it's you and a bunch of captains from other careers, and they purposely match you up with different people that do different things. So I'm meeting these combat veterans, these fighter pilots, and we all have to introduce ourselves and do a silly little 2 PowerPoint slide on what we do. And by the time I was done with mine, and I should preface this by saying because I wasn't a deployed guy, there's not a ton of Air Force officer deployments. There's just not. Okay. I struggled sometimes kind of validating my service. And so with that being said, we did our presentations, and a guy who had been in about 25 years, several combat deployments, stopped me at the end and was like, "Hey man, I thought, pilots and intelligence were the two most important career fields in the Air Force, and you've just changed my mind. And what you do, I could never do." And this is a guy who'd been to the desert and back multiple times and prayed to come home safely.
Yeah.
And that kind of put it in perspective to me sometimes that, and that kind of said it's okay, because I was struggling a little bit with how I was feeling. Yeah. And it's okay, Vince. Like, hey, your service is validated. Not that anyone that raises their right hand, it's not validated, but you get these thoughts sometimes, and that, hey, it's okay to let this affect you a little bit. And Jennah, my wife, was there for everything, and we worked through these conversations and things like that. And I had to kind of get through those emotions every day, Yeah. So that kind of changed my perspective as well, that, hey, this is a real deal,
Yeah, that's interesting. Man, I'm living it with you as you describe it. I hope the listeners are catching this. It says a lot about your resilience. It says a lot about, for some reason, I know you and I have talked about your parents. For some reason, you are either genetically drawn to turning negative into positive, or you learned it from somewhere. I heard as you described your story, the things I know about you already is you like excellence, you like to overachieve, you like multitasking, you like results, success. You are some of your posts, I think, on social media are probably the most profound that I've seen, like very well thought out. You're a deep guy, I guess is what I'm saying, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But I mean, you're painting me in much too bright of a picture of a light. I strive to be all those things you said, for sure, but I still have absolutely awful habits and poor diet and exercise sometimes, and struggle with discipline and all those things. But I'll be honest, because I'm a pretty transparent guy, that. I think I've always had a kind of a fear of failure, and that can be a positive or a negative thing. Failing, to me, I mean, there's books on it, there's seminars, there's whole weekends you can go to Vegas and hear about not being afraid to fail. I'm terrified of failure. I absolutely am. So I try and harness that to the point that I'll shut down sometimes and not do anything at all, which is failing, So it's funny how I have to kind of grapple with that and make things positive and try and work hard. And I'm not sure 5 a.m. wake up guy, regimented, like I want to be, and not because the book tells you to be, but because I do. But I wake up and I have a weak moment and I want to go back to sleep. So it's funny. I want all these disciplined things, and the way I look at it is every day, right? Every day we're gonna do something a little better. That's all you can really do. But thanks for saying all that.
No, you. Hey, cool it. Sorry, listeners. I'm sitting in the room with my dogs, and one of them heard something. So this is live and in color here. That was Ollie. I guess I should have prefaced all that, Vince. When my purpose for doing this podcast, everybody that's listening knows this, is I'm looking for everybody's extraordinary at some level. I think all humans are extraordinary. What is the extra in your ordinary? And I should have prefaced all that by saying you are a human being. You are. I know that. And I know I just look for the extra. And I think what's extra about you is, and I'm sure Jennah would say there's a lot of things that are extra about you.
She would.
But you got to promise me one thing. Like, you got to come back on after we finish today. I want you to come back on the show again and tell the Jennah story as much as you feel comfortable telling. I don't want to tell it now because I want to ask you a few other things, but I think that's a really cool story, like just of being willing to take a step, taking advantage of opportunity, and pretty cool. And your wife is amazing. Like, I've met her several times now, and that's your family is just, it's amazing to see what all you're doing. We're proud to be around you. So I want you to tell that story at some point.
Absolutely. I'd love to. The Jennah story is spectacular. It's unique. It's inspiring. She's all of those things as well. So I would love to do that. Thanks.
Maybe I should get her on here. I could do a couples interview about like the strength of marriage.
I don't know. I don't know if I want you asking questions.
Yeah. Yep. Because then all of a sudden Vince isn't so amazing anymore. And it's all
right.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So tell me, you were in the military. You were in the Air Force. You were in DC. You were doing this thing, and it had a profound impact on you. How did you end up? Tell me the story of how you got out of the military and what transpired and how you are where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So it all kind of connects, right? So even with Jennah is a very successful. I feel like she's an entrepreneur, even though she's working currently in a salary position and things like that. She's a nurse practitioner. She has all these options. She wants to, to be amazing in that. And I always felt like as a military member, I could potentially hinder her. We're moving every few years. I can't say I ever, really thought I was a lifer, right? A 20-year guy. On the officer world, it comes with a lot of responsibility and command, and it's a 24/7 gig. My version of abundance didn't really look like that. So I kind of always knew I would probably gonna do less than 10, but more than 4, and I ended up doing 8.5. So I nailed that. What happened was I was looking for kind of an exit strategy, and I meet this guy, Brian Chikowski. Shout out Chico. He doesn't know he changed it. He says, Vince, I've got this guy, Andy. You've got to meet him. Shout out to Andy. If you're here, I'll share it on your wall as well. He just started a real estate brokerage. It's called Veterans Realty Group. It's some veterans helping veterans buy and sell homes in DC. And I'm like, yeah, man, like I'll meet the guy. I'm not a realtor or anything. Needless to say, I meet the guy. Andy's brilliant. Andy is buying and selling homes with his lender while in Afghanistan type guy. He had since gotten out of the Air Force and started this brokerage, and he still worked for the government. And we're all part-time. There's a dozen of us. We're part-time. We're figuring it out. And the idea is that you can take a troop who's getting a large housing allowance, about $2,500 a month. He's renting an apartment with his buddy, and they're paying these inflated prices. You can have him put a roommate in that 2-bedroom condo, buy it. Each of them pay half. He keeps half of his allowance. The other troop keeps their half. They're both making money while he's building equity. When he moves, he replaces himself. Now he's an investor, and he is entrepreneur. So that's how it started. And then I realized that selling houses has nothing to do with houses and everything to do with people and service and just being that guy for somebody. And so for my last 4 years I sold nights, weekends, in traffic. I sold a lot of property while back and forth in DC traffic. Made a ton of money, was miserable because of the work-life balance was not there. But basically the whole point is that taught me that money and financial gain on the outside of the military is achievable, right? Chico always used to say it, money is abundant. So while my focus in life wasn't becoming rich or financial gain, it was supporting my family that I'm actively creating without being in the military. So that kind of proved to me. And then with the help of a couple other close buddies, that kind of pushed me a little bit. I made the leap, and Jennah was supportive the whole way. She said, hey, if I get a job and can float us and back home in North Myrtle Beach, will we go? And I said, yeah, if you can do it. This is the same day I came home with orders overseas to Jordan, and she didn't like that, and I didn't love it.
Right.
And I had great leadership that guided me on the way out and gave me the time I needed to kind of prepare. And so, yeah, I started selling with that purpose. About year 3, I found a RE/MAX franchise and a great neighbor of mine. He's a good friend. And then I learned about brand, and I learned about, RE/MAX specifically, and fell in love with those tools. And I think I'm pretty loyal to that brand, and I think I kind of always will be, especially if the franchise has kind of got it going on like we do. Shameless plug. But that's the real estate story. It all started out just to kind of help people, and I still actively help those troops today and try and set them up with as many agents across the country as possible when they move.
Cool. And you wanted to make a mention of you might have just done this, but I do want to put your organization in the show notes so that if anybody has a connection to a veteran or an officer or whatever, they can be helped with you. What's the name of that group, and where do you point people to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing referral business for since I started with my military network, and folks finally said, "Hey, man, you need to formalize this thing." So I have a little company it's called Call the Captain LLC. The word on base used to be, "Hey, you want to buy or sell a house? Call the captain. Call the captain." Talking about me, so it kind of caught on. So Call the Captain LLC, Facebook.com/Call the Cap CAP. Call the Cap. You can go on there. I've just launched this thing about a month ago with, so I'm building the page and all that good stuff. Something I'm doing nights and weekends just to give me a better chance to make sure veterans, as they move, or anyone for that matter, don't have to be a veteran, link with the right agent, because my job now is making sure I understand what the right agent looks like for your company and our owners. So I'm probably a really great resource to link you up with another agent in your move to make sure you have the best buying and selling experience. So I'm just a middleman to try. It's a way I feel like I'm still serving kind of in the industry.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that I love that. I hadn't heard that story yet about why it had that name. Rennie told me the name of it, but that's pretty cool. And there you go again, like nights and weekends. I mean, you're a pretty busy guy. I mean, you got young children, and you got a very active marriage, and you got a job that takes a little bit of time, and here you are, nights and weekends, the overachiever. But I like that. So if we can certainly, I'll put those links in the show notes so that anybody can find that in that regard. So. If you live or own property along the coast of South Carolina, you probably need insurance. We Insure Advocates is a locally owned independent agency with industry-leading service support. Our team of customer-centric agents can explain your coverage options and help you craft an insurance program that fits your needs and budget. Data-driven for better value, people-led for better service. That's the difference of we. For all of your property insurance needs, please find us at weinsureadvocates.com or call us at 843-491-6990. Pretty cool. So you feel like was your separation from the military, how was it? Like, I was never been in the military, so I have lots of family that were, but I don't know that I've ever talked about them. Like, what was it like? I don't know that any of them ever went military back to civilian life. What was that like? Maybe there's somebody out there listening that can relate.
Yeah, it's pretty much the most terrifying thing you'll ever do as a military member is leave. In my opinion, even if you're unhappy, everything changes. Full health care, full income, benefits, housing, it all goes away literally overnight. Luckily, I'm a bit of a planner, so the Air Force gave me ample time to prepare my life. I had an internship locally for a few months. I was able to do everything I needed to do prior to kind of interview with jobs, and the Department of Defense is trying to do a better job at that. But if you prepare for it, it makes it a little easier. However, what goes through in your psyche, you're losing what you feel like is kind of all you have of yourself and all you've ever been. So I'm leaving this culture and this community, and it's a community you'll never have back. This is why you see the American Legion and the VFW packed out on Friday nights, because people are longing for that community again. That's why veteran organizations are strong, and we do 5Ks together and hang out. So yeah, there's a huge change there, and that there was fear for me. Jennah will tell you, I was unhinged for a while, trying to figure out, oh man, is this okay? Is this going to work? Even after making 6 figures additionally selling real estate while proving I could do this, I was still terrified. Yeah.
And you came on with us as an agent. Mm-hmm. You clearly had sold real estate already, like your story just tells, and you were building quite a platform. I thought, like, this dude, I think you were one of the ones that I'd met that I thought had a ton of, it wasn't really potential because you'd already done it, but I thought the future was very bright for you. But you stumbled a little bit because the unknown, even though you knew what it could be, the unknown bothered you a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's so true. And our version, like we talk about abundance, our version looks like me having a stable set income and not a 1099 at this point in my life. And I think it's you're only prepared for so much when you make a change like I made, and you can only handle so much. And I knew that I could not handle, or at least I thought I did, and I felt like I could not handle that type of pressure. And if you're not sleeping good, if you're not sleeping well about something, it's probably not right,
Yeah.
So it had zero to do with the amount of money that could be made in my case,
right,
and much more with how am I sleeping with this next step in life, right?
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot. You do this every day in your job role now, which I want to talk about for a second. But abundance doesn't only mean money. It can mean peace. It can mean family. It can mean time. It can mean charity. It can mean money. There's a lot of things that it can mean, but what is you have to figure out what your definition of it was. And I think you were very courageous to say what it was for you. And I encourage our listeners to do the same thing. Like, gosh, I don't know how many times I say a day to people that I meet, almost everyone, don't be afraid to speak up for what you want. And first of all, get somewhere quiet and figure it out. And then once you figure out what you want, don't be afraid to speak up and go get it. And if you have an entrepreneurial spirit like we do, that's the fun part, but I liked that you had you and Jennah were in tune enough to say, hey, at least for this point in our life, this is what we need. And that's pretty cool. Tell people in layman's terms, and again, this is not a brand commercial nor there's a lot of listeners that aren't even in real estate, but what would you define your role in our company as, Vince? I want to hear you describe it in layman's terms.
Sure. I would say that when you look at our company as RE/MAX Southern Shores and RE/MAX Professionals, I would say that my role is to ensure that I'm protecting the current members and the current reputation of the brokerage by ensuring the right types of humans, which are good humans, who have certain personal characteristics, are the only people that we invite to join this thing, because this thing is so special. And I've been bestowed the responsibility and the honor to kind of protect that. So part of me looks like it as a protector. The other part of me thinks that from an entrepreneurial side, growing is a good thing with the right people. It's not just growing for the sake of growing. So I feel a responsibility to make sure the company has a positive trajectory as a business as well, because this business provides for so many others with what we enable them to do and the resources we provide. So I want to make sure that everyone that's already in this thing, feels the love and that they're taken care of, and that I'm here to kind of guard that gate a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I bet there's listeners that are rolling their eyes because it sounds so, come on, you don't just take everyone. Like, why not take a shot at anybody? I mean, not thieves and crooks, but take a shot at anybody, because what if they sell something, then you might benefit the brokerage, right? So that doesn't sound like that's how we do it. That's not how you look at it at all, right?
Yeah, no, this is far too important to all of us involved and all of our agents to allow anyone in. And it's not from a place of arrogance. It's because we need certain types of people. It's that simple. And if anyone, my info will be here. If you don't believe me, I've got a long list of folks that haven't been invited, that if you need to grow your brokerage, I'm happy to send them your way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. So do you know, I know you're a stats guy and you've only been here 6 months, I guess, but what's the percentage of invites that you give versus interviews?
It's right about, it floats between 19 and 21%, almost about 1 in 5 right now.
Okay. So I hope you guys are listening to that. And we have a few things, like a few standards that we don't buck on, like full time, that eliminate quite a bit. And then if you don't want to be around professionals, you're not going to sign up with us. But there are a lot of other things that you look for. And I like that. I like that. It's interesting to me because I don't know that you and I even talked about it that way when we were putting this whole thing together. and you actually take it way more seriously than I thought I was taking it, that you are, the first thing you said was you're protecting our current agent culture. Not you weren't, you didn't say growth first. You didn't say profitability for the organization first or any of that. You said protect. You feel like you're the gatekeeper. And I hope that our listeners, like especially the agents that are affiliated with us, I hope they appreciate that as much as I do, because I can sleep good at night to know we're not just going to put, and believe me, I was terrible at what we call recruiting or attracting in the beginning. Like to grow, like to get another number was all what I was about, and I hired some really beauts. I mean, it doesn't take long for that person to start wearing on the staff and start wearing on the other agents. So I appreciate that, Vince, that you were that way. Do you enjoy it?
I do. I enjoy it because it's connection. It's relationships and connection. Everyone knows I tag relationships or rocket ships a lot. Heard that from R4 in Vegas with Remax. And so, the attracting piece is fun for me. I'm on a mission, right? And our agents, for those listening, you're going to see me constantly pursuing relationships and attraction, simply because you don't know who's on the other end of that line or who's on the other end of that coffee and what that could do for all of us. So, that's a blast for me. It can get heavy. You can get tired for sure. Every time I can do 1 to 4 coffees a day, up to 10 a week is kind of what I let myself do if I can get that many booked. And you come home and you're exhausted. You're giving yourself to each one of those interviews fully, because the whole point is to try and help them, right? Yeah. So my job is to help people in their business and their life, like regardless of where they work or if they want to change brokerages or not. I get to go into every meeting wanting to help somebody, and that's probably, I don't know, find me a better job out there. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. What does Jennah think of you in this role the past 6 months? Have you changed? Does she say anything? Is it the same?
Yeah, no, she's liking the fact that, I'm on the move, She saw me try this other ways, sitting down all day. She saw me try this in the Air Force. My last job was a little more desk time, things like that. So she's like, man, you out in the community, meeting people, having coffee, going to events, just talking. Because, guys like me and you, this podcast could go 6 hours.
Right.
She's like, you out in the community just talking because you believe in the product. That's perfect for you. And, she feels it at home. It's probably a little more lighthearted than I was when I was under military pressures,
Yeah, I can see that. I'll tell you something that I told Mandy, my wife, when I was getting to know you, like through the interview process. This is funny now because it's absolutely not true. But I thought my only hang up with you was, well, you were experienced in real estate, but I'm thinking, could he recruit or attract a very, very experienced agent? Which, you've proven that you can, and it doesn't, there's no qualms with that. But the one hang up I had about you was I finally met someone that talks more than me. And in this role, you really can't, you got active listening is way more important than talking. Has that been a struggle at all? Because I said, he's going to struggle bad with that, but has it been or no?
Yeah. So at first, absolutely. I've got some good coaching thanks to you and the team. Our coach, he practices, he's trained me up on some rituals, right? So one of our things we do is we kind of stay into curiosity and what's the person's story I'm talking to. So that requires you to listen. So as I walk up to someone and our coach will say he did this too, or before you walk in that interview room, I'm just thinking, okay, just listen to them. Just listen to them. Stay into curiosity.
Yeah.
Just listen, and the avenue to be able to help them will appear. If I don't shut up, I'll never know how to help this person.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so far you fit the role perfect. So I'm proud to have you representing us out there. And I think the sky is the limit. I have my call with my coaches today. And quite frankly, my call most weeks is when I get on the phone with David, I'm like, how can I keep Vince engaged? Like, how do I keep him challenged, motivated, directed? Because, we say this, but talent requires challenge, growth, and stuff like that. So think it's been fun. I can't believe we've been on this call for 30 minutes already, but I got to ask you a couple of questions that all my listeners are like, we got to get to the freaking questions because I think they expect to know these things. And I want to know if you can tell me, but my listeners already probably know, but what's your superpower, Vince? Like what do you kind of feel like you're here for? If I could put it that way.
Yeah, sure. Nothing cosmic after kind of the conversation we just had, but it's definitely that connection piece. You asked me that before you hired me.
Yep.
Second time, kind of relationships, connecting. I love being like that guy in quotes for someone. If you can call me, there's people that call me for the dumbest things. Do you know a mechanic? Do you have this guy? Do you have a painter? I love being that guy for people.
Yeah.
So just always kind of connecting. You never know, relationships are rocket ships, like I say, but just connecting with people is important. It's deeper than just being comfortable on a crowded elevator. It's can you have a genuine connecting conversation, remember that person's name and mean something to them. And I feel like I try and do that in all my interactions.
Yeah. I don't think you're the, I can't do that guy. I don't think you're the guy, like you're probably the guy that would be working at, let's say, Outback, and no pun intended, because I know you're an Outback fan.
That's my spot. Yeah.
but you're working at Outback and you're working at the bar and somebody comes in and says they need a new set of tires. And you're like, you're not the guy that's going to say we don't sell tires here. You're going to pull your phone out and you're going to find a tire guy and you're going to say, I don't do that, but I got a guy that can. Let's call him right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I love that. It's Jennah. It drives her nuts.
Yeah.
And I truly think it comes from wanting to help. I just want to help people.
Right.
Maybe that's the real power. I don't know.
I'm the same way, and that's probably why we see each other. That's probably why this podcast is taking so long, because I see we agree on a lot of things.
Sure.
Tell me a book that makes a difference to you, or two that we can put in the show notes and our listeners can pick up on.
Yeah. So regardless of what you think about the guy, I like Tim Tebow and his kind of some of his mantras. So he's got a book called "This Is the Day."
Okay.
I keep it on the office desk, and it's hardly even a start to finish read. It's like you can open up any page and just read whatever story he's telling.
Yeah.
He talks about his parents. He would wake them up every day and they would sing an old gospel hymn, "This is the day." But the whole idea is that this is your day. You wake up and it's not, I'm going to get out of bed. And this is all cliche and it's basic, but that's because it's the best. It's just today is the day. I get to do today. I don't have to do today. Just like you and Mandy talk about, you tell the kids, you get to go to school. We get to eat breakfast. So This Is the Day by Tim Tebow. Great book.
That's awesome. I two things in response to that. I need to get my kids to sing that song on the way to school. Mandy has these affirmations that she shouts at the kids, and they shout back to her now. And I don't know them. Like, she never told me. I got in the car one day to take the kids to school, and they started telling me affirmations. And if there's nothing that'll break you down more than a 5-year-old saying, Hazel will go, "I have exactly what I need to be awesome today."
Yes.
If that doesn't break you down as a 54-year-old looking at yourself like, what am I going to get done today? Kind of feeling sorry for yourself, pop you right in the face. The other thing is that, I don't know if you know it or not, but there's a school here it's the Myrtle Beach Christian Academy. I shouldn't say this on here because I'm going to get in huge trouble, but luckily there's only 6 people that listen to my podcast. But anyway, they, for their commencement this year at the high school, Tim Tebow's the speaker.
Oh, outstanding.
So I think I have a ticket. I can't wait. I'm so excited to go hear him, because he does have a solid story, incredible athlete, man of faith, been penalized for it. But anyway, not everybody loves him, but I think what a story. Cool story. Last thing that I'll ask you today, and I want to ask you if you would please come back on again, if we could do another few episodes. I think that would be fun. I'm sure my listeners would love it. What is it that you do on a daily basis that helps you rise up? Because this is Rise Up in Real Estate. Is there something consistent in your schedule that you can point to and say, hey, that really works for me?
Yeah. Again, this other than waking up and saying, hey, how are we going to use today? And sometimes I struggle and sometimes I don't use the day the best way I could, but I at least try and have that mentality. Other than that, this is going to sound a little cheesy and a little corny, but I do my best. And I can't tell you the last time I've left the house without a hug and a kiss to the wife and my daughter. I leave before them and I take Tripp to school. And it's an intentional hug, a hold. Jennah says it's 7 seconds is the number. Sometimes we make it there, sometimes we don't. But to try and rise up all day is just remember that, these are my people, and I'm intentional about making sure they know that I love them. And that gets me through every day.
Sometimes I feel like the things that are said on, like I feel like I'm commissioned to do, and I use that word on purpose, to do this podcast, because every once in a while I get hit by something and I'm like, that's not an accident that he just said that. So about 3 hours ago, I know you'll be surprised by this, I was at a Starbucks, and I saw across the room a girl, and I won't go into detail who it is. It's a young lady. It's a daughter of a friend of mine. She's like in her 20s, and she's been through a rough time. I mean, I won't go into detail, but I knew that about her. I hadn't seen her in 6 months, but I knew what she'd been going through, and I went over and said hey to her. And I had this thing a few years ago where you said it just now, when I would hug someone, and I'm a hugger, and I guess COVID, you couldn't hug, but I was still hugging. I'm a hugger appropriately, but I learned that if you hug someone, a lot of times like guys hug and they go pat, pat, pat on their backs, or even you'll hug a friend and do pat, pat, pat. And it's just so quick in and out. It just got ritualistic. So I would make this a point. And I did this today with this young lady. I hugged her, but I stayed there for a second. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like at that moment, they let go of the hug. And this is not a creepy thing at all. I know I'm coming across as a little bit creepy, but they know that you're doing it on purpose. Like that it's not a habit. I'm thinking about the fact that I want to convey to you that I feel you and I understand where you've been and I know you're going through it. And I appreciate that you do that with your family. And I did this, I probably need to do it again, but a little while ago, Mandy and I committed to, I said, you got to look each other in the eye. I mean, how often do I go to school and I haven't looked at my little girls in the eye or my little boy in the eye and said this or that? It's just like we get so fast. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. For those with young kids, there's nothing better than hearing your 5-year-old boy, after you say it, have a great day, girls. We love you, girls. Hearing him echo it. And I don't get it right every time. And some days we're rushing out. And I wish I would have. But hearing that, golly, man, they pick up on everything. So the good and the bad. So at least I'm trying to put a little good out there for them. And that's what I do. Yeah,
because we could tell a lot of stories about the bad words they say and the inappropriate comments and stuff like that. But it is nice to hear when they listen, they definitely listen. And I'm after doing this podcast, I need to get to know your family a little bit better. I'm ashamed that I don't know your son and daughter better than I do. But this has been fun for me. I appreciate you being open. I appreciate you being willing to talk about all those things. I think that my goal here is that you would have connected with someone out there that doesn't know you all the way. You're a genuine human being. Tell people how they can find you if they need to, like social media or phone number, email, whatever you're comfortable. Tell them how you spell your name and where they can rummage you up.
Yeah, you can call me anytime. I'm always available to chat and talk and just connect with people. My cell number, I'll give you my cell, 202-740-0365. I'm VR Ramsey on Facebook, VR Ramsey, and facebook.com/callthecap, CAP, if you're looking to connect some people with some well-vetted agents anywhere out there. So that's how you find me. And thanks for listening. And sorry if you came here to hear about the market.
We can talk about next time. We'll talk about real estate, we promise. But hopefully you've heard something today, Rise Up Nation, that you can relate to. I hope somebody will connect with Vince that hasn't connected with him yet. I know that the agents that have listened to this at RE/MAX Southern Shores and RE/MAX Professionals are thankful that he's out there protecting our culture. And Vince, I hope and I know that the rest of your day will be incredible. Thanks for being on the show, and I'll look forward to next time we connect.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.